Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
You know, if there's one man that can eliminate Bundy, it's Mabel.
Joe Gimateo.
Oh, let's see who's coming out next. Our next entrant is I don't know who that is. Sorry.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one pay-per-view at a time. But first, just real quick, this is a pay-per-view episode. We're going over the Royal Rumble of 1995, so the rules are a tad bit different here. Just some minor differences to our format for this. We're going to be giving our own personal star ratings after all of these matches. We're not going to be getting into them in depth. We will be hitting highlights and discussing them, but once we give our personal star ratings, Joe's going to hit us with what Dave Meltzer rated them as from the Wrestling Observer. And because technically there are no jobbers in this pay-per-view, technically, there will be no jobber of the week, so Ryan's got the week off on that one.
It would just be too much, I think, for Ryan to have to
wade through all of those jobbers that
review 28 jobbers in the Royal Rumble.
all former victims of Gary Sabaw.
Well, in the meantime, it is a pleasure to announce that once again, Paulie J has delivered. He has produced a fantastic set of photography, steel cage match, Mabel versus ravishing Rick Rude. We're going to be releasing those pictures along with this episode, so be sure to take a peek for them out on all of our social media platforms and accounts. We're going to be spreading them around. So, once again, thank you, Paulie J, for your genius work. We look forward to doing a lot more with you here in the future. For those of you that want to take a peek at his work, on Twitter, he's at Paulie J. That's at PAULYJ2685. On Instagram, PJWF Mania. That's MANIA. So, once again, thank you, Paulie. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the 1995 Royal Rumble. Now, the Royal Rumble aired on January 22nd, 1995. And the Rumble was recorded at the Sundome in Tampa, Florida, and features Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's rumble.
Well, let's get into it. So the opening of the Royal Rumble was something that kind of threw me off at first. I was expecting just a generic kind of thing, but instead, we got an ivory white stretch limo entering the building, and there's some hooting and hollering going on in the background. There are some official-looking people waiting around, and a guy steps up to professionally open the door to the back of the limousine, and here is when we get some funky, almost, but not quite, porn music sounds, as a long leg in a leather boot emerges. It's Pamela Anderson, and the hooting and hollering is a group of superstars that's waiting to receive her. Strangely, Mabel is up front with Donk, who is not dinkless, I had to note.
Yeah, Todd Pettingzoo, you fucking liar.
Yeah, this won't be the first time that Donk is not dinkless either. Also, strangely, heels and baby faces no longer matter when there's a hot woman around. While there are no clear rivalries presented here, just about all of them are going to be in the Rumble together later, and just about all of them are pretty clearly established as either a heel or a babyface. I wonder who let them out of their separate locker rooms. Pamela steps through a doorway into her dressing room with a flirty look. And yes, it should be noted that her dressing room is in a prime location right off of the parking garage. Now we've got the sexy swinging sounds of a saxophone and a view of the Sundome packed to capacity. Vince is here roaring at us, going over the events of the night. And Jerry the King Lawler is there telling us that the championship match is between two of the most popular superstars ever in the World Wrestling Federation. And he might be half right about that, at least. Just briefly, gentlemen, to get us started, Ryan, first you and then Joe, what did you guys think of this little opening vignette?
I thought it was okay. I mean, it was perfectly fine outside of Todd Bettingsu being a liar. Clearly, Dink was in attendance, so I mean, outside of that, the only other thing I noticed was we clearly have Lawler ringside. We get to see and hear him. I was taken back just for a moment, and I'm thinking I'm a little sad because this marks the end of Shawn Michaels doing commentary, and I've really enjoyed him for the last month. I thought he's done a stand-up job, and I'm not exactly sure who we have moving forward. It may be Lawler after this, but hopefully it's not one of these terrible people that we had in the past, though.
Yeah, I completely forgot that this entire event is revolving around Pam Anderson. I actually didn't know who was in the limo at all. I was like, oh, who's in there? And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah. I forgot the entire event was based around her. Yeah, I always do like Vince hyping up the intro for these pay-per-views. You can tell the energy is a lot more lively than it is for a regular old Monday Night Raw. So always enjoy Vince's intros for the pay-per-views.
I don't really have much to add on to all of this, other than I thought it was just really weird that Pam added in her appearance rider, apparently, that her dressing room must be right off of the parking garage. And I had a sign on the door and everything. I wonder if she got her own bathroom. Well, this is going to take us into our first match of the Rumble. Double J, Jeff Jarrett with the Roadie, defeats Razor Ramon by pinfall in 18 minutes and 3 seconds to win the Intercontinental Championship. In the match here, just some things that I noted and liked. Really pretty decent pop for Razor as he came out. Seems to me that the pyro is finally synced up for him, too. At least it worked with him. It was a little bit delayed with one or two other people later in the night. But at this point, at least, it seems like the wrinkles have been ironed out on Razor's entrance. The King says after this, Double J is going to star in Phantom of the Grand Ole Opry on Broadway, and Vince thinks that is fucking hilarious. Ha! 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 Right off the bat, the work is amazing. The moves are crisp. Everybody is selling everything. I was very nicely surprised by a really nice choke slam from Razor Ramon in this. And I had to note, Double J is such a great heel in the traditional sense. Twice he lands a simple arm drag takedown and then does the strut immediately afterwards like he is the single greatest fucking wrestler of all time. Fantastic heat for that. I loved it. Double J works a series and then paintbrushes Razor in the back of the head and soaks up the booze as he laughs about it in the corner. They make their way to a test of strength, and the way that Double J sells some of the shoulder blocks from Razor, that Razor starts to lay into him while they're locked up, really has me thinking that Double J is going to steal the show, as it were. Vince mentions that Lawrence Taylor was interviewed by Petting Zoo earlier. Lawrence Taylor. It's nice to know that there's another celebrity in attendance here tonight. I'm sure we won't hear much from him at all.
With his kilo of coke.
Yeah. It's underneath his seat. Double J uses the ropes as leverage for a pinfall. First the bottom rope, and then he climbs his feet up to the second rope before being caught. I love that. Razor uses the ring post to give Double J a crotch shot, and people popped their asses off for that. The Tampa crowd really fucking loves the idea of Double J Jeff Jarrett's testicles being damaged. I like the way the roadie came in to chop block Razor's knee whenever Razor had a seeming injury there at the outside. He got tossed out and was favoring the leg a little bit, and the roadie came in and chop blocked him right in the back of the joint. Razor Ramon here is counted out because he's injured. And honestly, guys, I was like, because this, I should have said at the outset, this is the first time I've watched this Royal Rumble. I've never seen this one before. At the outset of the injury here, when Razor Ramon's counted out, I was honestly like, no, this can't end like this. This is horseshit. But when Double J calls Razor Ramon back, calls him a coward, telling him, you might have yellow on your boots and on your tights. You might as well paint a yellow stripe up your back. And also, he ain't no bad guy. It took it to the next level for me. I got into it. Some more excellent storytelling from Razor's facial expressions and Double J's mouth on this. Razor, to me, was kind of overselling the gimpy leg here. I kind of took it to mean that Razor, like, maybe just isn't used to selling a major injury as part of an angle. He has done it in the past, but it was never this big of an injury and this large a part of an angle, to the best of my recollection. The roadie at ringside was yelling, you ain't so bad now. Loved that. Double J applying the figure 4 to Razor is one of the best drawn-out submission sells I've ever seen. Razor was fantastic selling the figure 4. And I also loved it when Razor's leg gave out in the middle of the Razor's edge. I loved the clean pinfall for Double J winning the title. Just to cap everything off, my 2 cents. So this was a great opener for a pay-per-view, I thought. The only complaints that I had about it were that Razor seemed a little bit awkward selling the leg injury at first, when he was just walking around and whenever things were getting restarted. But once he was working with Double J, he was flawless in selling the leg injury, on top of the moves that Double J was performing. Like, the injury was a kind of multiplier, you know, there was his normal selling of moves, but then he amped it up to match the leg injury. I thought it was excellent selling of the work. Overall, in my opinion, an excellent match from 2 of the best performers of all time. I gave this match 4 stars. Joseph, please, what did you think of this?
The first thing I noticed was, I don't know why, because Razor has gone up against guys like Shawn Michaels and other smaller guys in the past, but for some reason it stood out to me how big this guy is, but he doesn't wrestle like a big man at all. He's not that much smaller than Hulk Hogan. He's like 6'7", 287, so I mean, it's just amazing to me how he can move for a big man. Both guys at the beginning, they kind of did a good job of just kind of slowly moving at the beginning, mostly psychological stuff for the first half of the match, and they kind of picked it up there. As far as Double J goes, Double J, he's getting some pretty decent heat with the crowd during the match. He's using some classic heel tactics, like putting his foot on the ropes for leverage and stuff like that. I think Double J has great facial expressions to kind of oversell everything, like doing the oh no face before Razor does any big move. And great facials while he's up in the Razor's edge too. He's like shaking his head and freaking out. As far as Razor goes, I disagree with the overselling of the injury. I think he did it just right, and he kept doing it consistently, and that's kind of the story here, is that, you know, he basically only lost to Double J because he was injured, which I like, because not that I don't feel that Jeff Jarrett's ready for this, but it just kind of, it was their first match, I think. So it's, the program is still fairly new, so it took some balls to switch the title here. But I gave it 4 stars as well. I think, again, just great heel work by Jarrett. I personally think he's ready to be Intercontinental Champion. A lot of the stuff that I read, it seems like people feel as though Vince is shoving Jeff Jarrett down our throats, but I kind of disagree with that. So, yeah, I gave it 4 stars as well.
To begin the match, you have Jeff Jarrett coming down to the ring, just soaking up the heat in those flashing glasses and hat. I think he's wore it at least one other time before on Raw, but it just really stands out just how ridiculous these flashing glasses and hat look, and they really help him amplify that heel persona of his. right up to, right when the match starts after their initial flurry of exchanges that they have, and Double J rolls out of the ring and he grabs the towel, dabbing off the sweat. I mean, just really hamming up the hill, and I love him for it. Like you both mentioned, two fantastic workers here, so it's not a surprise that we get a pretty good match out of the two. About the midway point, right before Razor got his injury from the roadie, there were a couple things that I noticed where maybe the match wasn't as great as it could have been. And then the injury happened, though. And I'm with you, Joe. The way Razor started selling this injury, and not just the injury, but just the moves themselves, the way that they just kind of picked up, and everything just started to flow a little bit better in the match, it seemed, once this injury was established. I really loved the injury part of it. I thought that Razor played it up perfectly, and so did Double J on trying to exploit this injury. I had to point out Rhodey screaming at one point when Double J has the figure 4 locked in. He says, "You're not oozing with machismo now, are you?" I think probably the only point that I thought was a little oversold by Razor was the finish. When he had him up on the Razor's edge and he's holding him there, he just crumbled. I don't know. I thought the crumbling was just a little bit over the top. But great match, fantastic way to start out the Royal Rumble. But I'm going to probably, only because we don't give any partial stars, I'm going to disagree with you two and only give it a 3. I think that these two have a 4 or maybe even a 5-star match out of them. I just don't think this was it.
Yeah, Meltzer is kind of right in between us here. He 3 3/4 stars, which basically 4 stars, but he's an asshole. So you guys mentioned the figure 4 move, and I noticed that as well. And it was a great job by Razor of working the crowd during that figure 4, because you could tell the crowd was getting really getting behind Razor during that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little surprised at where the three of us fell on the things that we mentioned, especially the selling of the leg injury here. And just to be clear, my dislike of it was only at the very, very beginning after he was chop blocked. Whenever he was walking around ringside, after he was back into the ring, like walking over to Double J. Once they tied up again, and once they got back down to business, it was great. It was perfectly done. It was just that those first steps that I thought were a little overdone and a little awkward. Ryan, I'm kind of surprised that you thought the crumbling leg was your awkward spot, because I thought that was probably the best example of his selling during the injury angle.
See, to me, it seemed like it was just a little bit too much, but
I'll give it to you that maybe he held the edge up there for just a little bit too long, because at that point, he kind of milked it for a second.
Yeah, it was like most of the time you would have dropped the guy 3 times by now.
Yeah, so I mean, I can kind of see that a little bit, but
it's a minor squabble.
Oh yeah. I won't be sending you any glitter bombs over that one. We'll wait and see what happens with the rest of this pay-per-view, because I'm very curious to see where we're going to stand on some of these matches. For the record, for our listeners, we haven't discussed our opinions ahead of time on this. This is all going to be a surprise. So, what is not surprising, however, is that Stephanie Wiand is horrible. After this match, we're going to go backstage to Stephanie Wiand. Just horrible. She doesn't fit in here at all with any of this, and it pisses me off.
Way out of place.
Yes. And what the shittiest part about it is that it really pisses me off that I have to give Petting Zoo some credit here, because as annoying as I generally find him, Stephanie Wiand makes Petting Zoo look more acceptable to me. After her...
I mean, yes, but we get so little of her and so much of him.
I was just going to say, I think we've already spent more time on her than she had on the screen.
Yeah.
That is true. One final point that I do have, see how many people out there like this comparison. I thought that whoever did Stephanie Wiand's makeup made her look like drummer Eric Carr from Kiss.
Oh my God.
Look it up.
I didn't notice.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie is backstage waiting for Double J, but he's not showing up, so she's going to kick it to Petting Zoo, who is in Pamela Anderson's dressing room with her. There are flower bouquets and all kinds of shit there in the dressing room, and Pamela says the wrestlers are spoiling her. Apparently, the Bushwhackers gave her a tin of sardines, the British Bulldog gave her a stuffed bulldog, Henry Godwin gave her a piggy bank, which was more than I would have expected for that particular gimmick, and the narcissist Lex Luger gave her a Lex Luger t-shirt with a really mediocre graphic on it. Shawn Michaels gave her a picture of himself, but that's okay because he's not supposed to be the selfless made in the USA shit gimmick person. I thought that was just a little discordant. Lex being a bit of a narcissist again. There's some light comedy here as Petting Zoo tries to flirt with Pam. She's selling it all well. And honestly, Petting Zoo isn't too bad here either. For some reason, he's great at being a fucking creep. Who'd have thought?
Picking things up off her lap.
Yeah. Stephanie has Double J backstage now. And the first thing she does is flub her lines and says that she has the new Intercontinental Champion Razor Ramon before correcting herself. Double J responds with, "Ain't got time for interviews." He's on his way to see someone. "Pamela Sue, I'm coming, baby." It's going to be kicked back to ringside, and I'll just add again how absolutely terrible Stephanie Wiand is. Briefly, guys, Ryan, then Joe, what did you think about the much-anticipated Pam Anderson in her little vignette here?
I mean, it was. It was nothing special. I don't have too much to talk about. It was perfectly fine. It's about what you expect out of a star cameo at one of these pay-per-view events.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was appropriate considering who's a part of it. I love your fucking burying of Stephanie Wiand. God, just buried the shit out of her.
Yeah, well, I mean, she really was horrible. At first, I called her the Crypt Keeper, but then I was like, nah, that's a little bit too much, so I went with Eric Carr from Kiss.
Well, speaking of burying people.
Yeah, right? At ringside, we briefly get the King making some predictions before going into our next match. The Undertaker with Paul Bearer defeats Erwin R. Shyster with the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase by pinfall in 12 minutes and 20 seconds. The IRS entrance is really boring. There was no real crowd response at all. The IRS then gets in the ring and cuts a promo on The Undertaker, insisting that The Undertaker pay his taxes. That's what this has all been about. The Druids showed up in all of those early instances because the funeral home was delinquent on their taxes. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot think of a more believable reason to summon Druids than delinquent taxes.
Druids in wrestling gear. Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, as an auditor, is that something that you've heard of happening in the professional arena? Like somebody isn't paying their shit and you got to summon up some Druids? You
summon the Druids wearing wrestling gear, yeah.
Okay.
It's a well-known practice.
Yeah.
I wasn't. This is why we have the experts here on Wrasslin Raw to clarify these things for us. Back in the ring, guys, I hate to say it, but to me it didn't seem like there was as big of a pop for The Undertaker as there normally is.
I think the crowd in general seemed kind of... they were confused during this entire event.
I mean, as a huge Undertaker fan myself, I couldn't get up for a match that makes no sense against the IRS.
Couldn't get it up. Huh? I don't blame you. But speaking of things getting bigger and enlarging, I'm pretty sure the urn got even bigger, if that's possible. That urn was fucking huge now.
We talked last week.
Yeah. You could fit a fucking Christmas turkey in it. Paul Bearer tries to get an Irwin chant going. It's hilarious, but it doesn't work. The crowd just simply isn't into it. All we get is a faint in the background. Irwin! Irwin! And there is entirely too much time being wasted at the beginning of this, with IRS being too afraid to enter the ring. The action hadn't even started yet, and I was bored to tears over that. The King keeps mentioning druids all throughout the match, and Vince finally yells at him with, "Would you stop it with the druids?" And I can't fucking agree more. Nobody seemed all that impressed with The Undertaker walking the top rope. Again, a dead fish of a crowd. What the fuck? And now, here come the druids. They look horrible. They're like reverse Klansmen. They're wearing black bags over their heads with eye holes cut out. It's fucking terrible. IRS busts out the old chestnut of the abdominal stretch with leverage from the top rope, releasing it before the official catches it, and then grabbing the top rope again. That was entertaining the first time I saw it on Raw months ago, just in case we get anybody pointing out that I, at one point, had initially popped my ass off for that. I did, yes, a few months ago. But you'd think that they would have come up with something new, some new ways of storytelling in the months since, especially for a fucking pay-per-view. The biggest pop so far is The Undertaker setting IRS up for the tombstone. I have to assume it's because people in the crowd think that that means that the match is about to be over. Hard to tell if there is crowd noise being piped in. There are quite a few times where there's noise, but the hard camera view shows people just sitting there, not even clapping. Eventually, The Undertaker gets the 3 count from a chokeslam. I barely noticed because this match didn't do a very good job of holding my attention, generally speaking. After some posturing from Taker, the Druids come back in to try to work on The Undertaker, and then comes down King Kong Bundy. This distraction is enough for IRS to repossess the urn from Paul Bearer. And unfortunately, now The Undertaker has no power whatsoever without the urn, ending the entire segment. He weakly struggles to sit up and weakly rolls out of the ring and has to practically be carried backstage by Paul Bearer. I didn't think I would ever say this, guys, but this is probably the worst Undertaker match I have ever seen. I thought the first casket match with Yokozuna from the 94 Royal Rumble was the worst Undertaker match I'd ever seen. But this match has officially taken that distinction. I was not excited. It didn't seem like anyone was excited. The continuation of an already shitty angle was disappointing because apparently this is going to keep going until they get the urn back. Commentary couldn't save this match. Paul Bearer couldn't save this match. The Undertaker couldn't save this match. And as much as I truly, truly hate to say it, guys, I am going to give this match a dud rating. Joe, I want to hear from you first on this one before we give Ryan the last word.
Well, you ain't seen nothing yet, pal. I'm going to go back to the beginning here. I hate to say it, but the IRS, and as much as I love Ted DiBiase, I think Ted DiBiase is just with the greatest heels of all time listing. But the $1 Million Man gimmick and IRS is just outdated at this point. I just don't think anybody really gives a shit about it. The beginning, like, what the hell are they doing? They're just standing there forever, not starting the match. This should have just been a squash match. I would have given it 5 stars. If this match was over in 30 seconds or less, it would have got 5 from me. 5.
30 seconds or less.
The Druids are so fucking useless. They're basically afraid of The Undertaker. So what's the point of having them there? They put him up in the tombstone, and I'm just like, I'm popping my ass off. I'm like, yes, yes. But no, it kept going. It kept going. I can't do it. I can't give The Undertaker less than 2 stars here. I gave it 2 stars because I feel like I know there's worse, and we're about to see it soon. So I went with 2 just simply because it's The Undertaker. Yeah, that's it.
You know, as much as I love The Undertaker, I think we all weren't looking forward to this, right? For weeks, we were just kind of dreading this match, and it lived up to that expectation. One of the things I got the best laugh out of was right towards the beginning. I believe The Undertaker, it's right before he makes his way down to the ring, and the King is talking to Vince about how The Undertaker past weekend made a cameo at a monster truck rally. And of course he's endorsing Gravedigger. I laughed over that.
Just pandering to the demographic.
Yeah, perfect demographic there. But yeah, it starts off not great. You have the monster versus the old slow veteran. So, you know, how was this going to ever be good? And it's not. And then once the Druids finally do come down, because they're not there at the beginning of the match, it's finally believable at this point that maybe the IRS has a shot. Because like you said, Joe, it should have been a 30-second squash match. I mean, IRS versus The Undertaker. Come on. And then once the Druids do finally come down, they don't do jack shit. They don't save him at the end. At one time they come up on the apron and basically point at The Undertaker, and he just kind of flexes at them, and they go, whoa, and they get scared off, and then that's the last time the Druids do anything. Bartlett, you brought up the abdominal stretch. You know, an abdominal stretch is fine for Raw against a jobber. When you're in a pay-per-view event against The Undertaker, it doesn't even look like IRS can apply the abdominal stretch on this 7-foot-tall Undertaker. It just looked awkward. Yeah, it was stupid. I did get a laugh out of how many times Taker did his standard sit-up. I think it was about 23 times. But, man, the crowd popped for it almost every time. Every time he did his sit-up, man, you could hear that cheer come out of the crowd. But it was a little bit overdone. You know, finally he gets the choke slam for the win, but then you have King Kong Bundy come out, and I'm thinking to myself, please God, not a feud with him. And then IRS takes the urn, and I'm just getting flashes of Mr. Hughes here. That's all I'm thinking.
Yes.
Is he going to start bringing out the black wreaths for IRS as well? I can't remember if he does or not, but kind of like you, Joe, I can't give The Undertaker a bad rating. I am an asshole for The Undertaker, so I gave him 2 stars, even though it might have deserved a dud.
God damn.
Yeah, Meltzer gave this 1.25 stars and said that this was the only bad match. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess maybe I'm just less of an asshole for The Undertaker than you guys are, because there was no way I could bring myself to give this anything more than a dud. It was so terrible, start to finish.
Yeah, it sort of makes you appreciate, like, we gave a lot of shit to Yokozuna.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate him, because honestly, like, the past, almost 3 years, I mean, I guess 2 years, if not for Yokozuna and that little feud with The Undertaker, man, The Undertaker's just getting dealt all the garbage.
Yeah.
Yokozuna, he was approaching 1,000 pounds, and he moved quicker in the ring than IRS.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go that far.
Well, okay, a bit of exaggeration, but
I will absolutely concede to both of you, and well, I don't need to concede anything. It's a straight up fact. We popped our asses off for the last casket match at Survivor Series.
Yeah,
we loved that match. It was a great match. And if he could have that good of a match with somebody as more often than not disappointing like Yokozuna, like, I never thought that I'd get to the point where I was wistful for Yoko, but here we are.
Well, it was, Ryan, you did exaggerate. Yoko's actually 900 pounds.
Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
No, I meant you were exaggerating about him moving fast.
No, it was his weight.
Yeah, I can't believe that this is going to continue. This is like Jesus Christ. And Ryan, that is a fantastic point about Mr. Hughes. I remember thinking it while I was watching the match. I don't know why it didn't come into my notes here, but you are spot on with that.
It's the exact same storyline that we were just at a year and a half ago.
And since then, the urn has quintupled in size.
Yeah. It's on the Paul Bear diet.
Back then, Mr. Hughes could palm the fucking thing, and now you need a forklift. All right, we're going to move it along here, because that was just, boy. Best match of the night, you said, Joe, from Meltzer. Or worst match, excuse me.
Worst.
He said it was the only bad match of the night.
Okay, well, we're going to keep that in mind moving forward. Next up is going to be another petting zoo segment. This time it's with Diesel earlier today. He's going to be backstage with him. Diesel is taking things seriously. So seriously that he cannot stop rubbing the tape on his wrist. The one wrist with the one hand, doing absolutely nothing with it. He just keeps rubbing that tape on his wrist, and he tells Petting Zoo, "Not now." So, not to be deterred, Petting Zoo is now backstage with Bret Hart. Bret cuts a succinct promo here. It's brief, but I liked when Petting Zoo kept asking him, well, if Diesel gets you in the jackknife, and Bret just cuts him off with if, and then just dismisses him. I thought that's the kind of Bret Hart promo that I like. Arrogant and to the point. Returning back to ringside, the King is going to give a decent mini promo of his own, talking up the pressure of the situation and the pressure going into the match between these two superstars. Real quick, guys, Ryan, first you, and then Joe, what did you think of these little asides with our championship match contenders?
They were fine. I mean, we don't get too much out of them. With Diesel, we get barely anything. And with Bret Hart, like you said, I enjoy when you just kind of get these short and to the point promos out of Hart, and I liked it.
I thought it was a little confusing. It's not your typical babyface versus babyface lead-in where they're both like, I respect the guy, hope we have a great match. It definitely wasn't that. So interested to see where they're going with it.
Not much to add to your opinions. I basically agreed with you on this one. I like the little Bret Hart thing there. If cuts Petting Zoo off. I thought that was kind of cool. This is going to take us into our next match. Diesel versus the Hitman Bret Hart for the WWF Championship ends in a draw after 27 minutes and 18 seconds. Great crowd noise and pyro for the Hitman. It is safe to say that Bret Hart is over in Tampa. There's a jabroni at ringside tough-talking Bret Hart and gesturing at him while the Hitman gives his glasses and necklace to some kids. Bret completely ignores him. Loved it. Next up is Diesel, and the man has to duck to get through the opening. Vince practically ejaculates all over the announce table. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think this is the official coming down the entryway debut of Diesel's new ring music. I hated it.
The Roseanne music.
Yes, the Roseanne music. We finally get a camera view of Lawrence Taylor. Diesel goes over and shakes hands with him. Very good to see LT sitting there. Stylish. Vince reminds us that Diesel won all 3 titles within a year, and that's in reference to the tag titles, the Intercontinental title, and the championship. That's a little factoid that I often forget. I get so bogged down in thinking about how they've been pushing him so hard. I forget about the metrics behind that. He has won all 3 major titles within a year. Well, all 3 existing titles, actually. I take that back. Here at the beginning is a great example of what I want from Bret Hart after the match gets started. He's not being a heel. He's being skillfully aggressive. That's a fine line, maybe, but he's showing off his technical ability without fully getting into dirty tricks. I was concerned about the size difference and the difference in styles here, but at the outset, at least, I was pretty reassured when the action got started. I had to laugh because Vince mentions the newfound aggressiveness of Bret Hart and says that there was some question that Bret Hart had changed. Of course there was, Vince. You couldn't fucking stop mentioning it last week on Raw. Pretty sure Vince was the only one bringing it up last week on Raw during that Bret Hart Double J match. I spoke too soon, though. As we continue with the match, the Hitman gets dirtier and dirtier, still skirting the line, though he isn't gouging eyes or using foreign objects, but he is using the ring post at this point. He's not releasing holds at the referee's orders. The way that he maintains the holds when Diesel reaches the ropes isn't doing the storytelling any favors here, in my opinion. All it's doing is making the referee look absolutely useless. Hebner keeps yelling at him, giving him 5 counts, tapping him, trying to draw his attention. Meanwhile, after the first 5 count, technically the ref could DQ the Hitman. I'm not saying he should have, but it's been done for less in the past. So now, in my opinion, the official has become absolutely pointless in this match. That shouldn't necessarily be the case. Vince makes a point of saying that there's nothing Bret Hart won't do to regain the championship. I'm assuming that he is using that to excuse the fact that the Hitman is disregarding the rules of the match, as we've been seeing. And then there's some more heel work to note. I really like watching Diesel give sidewalk slams. He pulls off an excellent one on the Hitman. Just in general, I think he works sidewalk slams really well, and they look great coming from a 37-foot-tall monster. Vince comments on not seeing too much of a limp on Diesel after some more leg work and the damage done to the leg with the ring post there. I really appreciate Vince pointing out that Diesel isn't keeping with the program on that, selling any kind of weakness, unless the program is maybe that he's just an unstoppable monster that can't be beat. I don't know, because the storytelling on this isn't exactly clear to me. Diesel picks the Hitman up into what everybody thinks is going to be the jackknife, and instead it turns out to be a kind of hold. I'm not sure what to think about it. I don't know if Bret knows what's going on at first, because at the very beginning of the hold, he gestures like, come on, or maybe he was just flailing. I honestly don't know. But then he starts working with it. I found it kind of confusing. Bret pulls Diesel's legs to the outside around the ring post, and then Diesel sits and waits patiently while Bret wraps his wrist tape around Diesel's ankles. The ref pointlessly counts for no reason because he's standing there witnessing this use of the foreign object and doing nothing about it. But once Bret climbs back into the ring to start pounding on Diesel, Hebner goes to the outside to effortlessly snap off the tape that Diesel could have broken at any time. I think it's safe to say that it is at this point that I am officially down on this match. Even Vince comments on how the official should be breaking holds on one of the many instances when Bret simply won't let go. There's an impressive moment where Diesel catches the Hitman Bret Hart out of midair at ringside. Then back in the ring, Diesel lands the jackknife on Bret, and Hebner is ridiculously slow on the count. It's been commented on Wrasslin Raw before about how fast Hebner is on his counts. He really likes the fast count. Well, here we've got the exact opposite. There's a run-in from Shawn Michaels, and despite the fact that run-ins have been DQing matches almost every fucking week for the past 2 months, the referee decides that the match must continue. Vince says Bret Hart has given the official a number of reasons to disqualify him, and I completely fucking agree. This is off the rails as far as I'm concerned. Bret attempts to use a chair on Diesel's leg. Finally, some boos from the crowd on this heel work. And now we get a run-in from Owen Hart. Still no disqualification, as he takes the padding off the turnbuckle and throws Bret into it. There's another announcement that the referee has decided that this match must continue. And then another huge slow count from Hebner. Now Diesel is going to pick up a chair and make an attempt. I thought that we had just used a chair to officially get Bret over as a heel, but now Diesel has one too, so I'm back to being confused. I thought I was with the program there for a second. I thought this was okay, Bret's officially a heel now, but no dice. There's a fast count when Bret gives Diesel a roll-up. Some major inconsistency from Hebner here. And then there's a 5-man run-in with Shawn Michaels, Double J, the Roadie going after Diesel, and Bob Backlund and Owen Hart going after Bret Hart. The ring fills with officials. Pretty sure I saw Briscoe in there. I know I saw Patterson, and I think I might have seen even J.J. Dillon in there. Due to the inability of the official to maintain this contest, he has declared this match a draw. That's the announcement from Fink at ringside. And once things start to get cleaned out a little bit, Backlund heads back into the ring and lands the crossface chicken wing on Bret Hart, and it all begins again. Diesel is able to clear the ring this time, and then comes to Bret Hart's rescue, kicking Backlund off of Bret Hart. There's a final hug between Diesel and Bret Hart, and despite the fact that the match was a draw, it's Diesel's music that gets played on the house PA system. I'm assuming it's because he retained the championship. Not positive on that, that's just a guess. Guys, at first I was really hopeful that I was going to be wrong about this match. It started off pretty well, but it went down the shitter for me really quickly. There was almost nothing redeeming about it at all to me, and the roles of the players were all confusing. The behavior of the referee was pointless and out of line with the usual flow of things, and to me, the storytelling was non-existent. At first, I thought that this is when we're going to have the official Bret Hart heel turn, which I would have been open to given the quasi-heel turn build-up, but through the course of the match, it stuttered and stalled so that we got a ton of heel behavior that ended in a couple of feel-good hugs. The run-ins did nothing for me other than continue to dilute the story, and in the end, I was left with a pretty bad taste in my mouth about all of it. I am rating this match as a dud. Joe, what are your thoughts here, please?
Well, a lot of people, the majority, think that this was a great match between, not to spoil anything, but between Dave Meltzer, between the Observer readers. I listened to Bruce Pritchard's podcast. Both him and Conrad put this match over. Yeah, so I'll start with that. It's widely regarded as Diesel's best match in the company. A lot of people say that, but I disagree. I'm with you, Bartlett, and I'm going to say I don't think it was a bad match, but more along the lines of what Ryan said with our first match, I expect better out of these two. This is just there's a lot going on here with the run-ins. They're obviously setting up other storylines within this match. So the confusion with Bret Hart, is he a heel? Is he not a heel? Bruce Pritchard said that he was not acting like a heel in this match. He was acting more like, well, what do I need to do to beat this monster, Diesel? I need to do whatever it takes to beat this monster. And I didn't take it that way. I mean, the taping of the legs, I don't know. Like you, Bartlett, it lost me with the tape gimmick because, I mean, come on, this guy's enormous. He's enormous. He could just tear that tape right off. Just pull his legs apart and tear it. They're getting chairs out, and I mean, these are two baby faces. I'm so confused. So I gave it 2 stars. Not to say that I thought it was just as good as the Undertaker and IRS match, but I just expect better out of these two guys, and I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I'm going to completely disagree with you two.
Jeez.
Just like last week, I enjoyed Bret Hart's heelish. I mean, maybe I just like heel Bret Hart better. And I mean, I guess I'm not saying maybe, that's a fact for me. I like Bret Hart as a heel better than I like him as a babyface. And so maybe that's why I enjoy this match a lot better. And part of it also is we keep on hearing that Diesel is the worst belt holder of all time. So going into this, maybe I was just expecting something terrible. But, when it started, I thought it was a really great match. Outside of some of the confusing as to who's a babyface and who's a heel, I thought the ring work was very sharp. I loved some of the stuff out of Bret Hart here. I enjoyed him just beating on Diesel's legs. The fourth time that he goes out there and he's continuing to rip on his legs, it finally starts to pay off and he starts to get some boos out of the crowd. And Joe, you said Pritchard said he wasn't trying to be a heel. To me, it seemed like he most certainly was. And like that point was that was the crowning achievement. He finally started to get some boos. I mean, that was him pushing the crowd over and saying, stop cheering for me, start to boo for me. I also disagree with the match must continue part. I loved it. When I heard the Fink come on and say, the match must continue, I said, yeah, I don't want this match to end because of some stupid interference. Yeah, I'm surprised that you guys both hated this so much because I thought that the ring work itself was really great. And I was kind of surprised out of how good Diesel looked in the match. The only time he really messed up was there was a suplex that he kind of botched and Lawler kind of covers it for him saying, oh, I think he threw him on his side to focus on his ribs. I was like, good cover for him there, Lawler.
Yeah.
But complete disagreement here. Outside of the ending, I was a little bit taken back by the stupid ending with everyone coming in, because if you're really trying to get the big man Diesel over, let him get a clean victory over Bret and actually establish that he's your champ. But I gave it a 4 stars.
Shoo, my goodness.
Well, that's not surprising, Ryan, because like I said, everybody, social media, observer, readers, everybody was high on this match, and Meltzer gave it 4.25 stars.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised he gave it that.
Yeah. I mean, other thing, I think it went a little bit too long. I think maybe that was part of my problem with it too. But by the way, Shawn Michaels, a heel, getting a huge pop from the crowd. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Yeah.
Maybe they just didn't know who it was at first, but it was pretty loud.
And probably one of my favorite parts in the match is towards the end. There's like a cartoon spot where Diesel's kind of bouncing off the ropes, and the Hitman's final punch looks like something straight out of a cartoon. It just hits him, and you can almost see the pow words above Diesel's head as he just hits the mat like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, I will give you that. There were some good moments in this, but just we all know that I went into this just overall confused and down on this whole angle. This did nothing to solve any of it for me because, like I said, if it had continued in that vein, we finally got some boos for Bret Hart. If we could just continue with that and then use, forget about the build-up and all my confusion there. If this was the match that defined Bret Hart's heel turn, then I would probably have a significantly different opinion of this match.
I think that's the problem for both you and I. We're not paying attention to what's happening now, but we know that he didn't turn heel after this, so it's kind of hard.
I'm ignoring what's coming in the future.
Yeah.
No. I'm not even thinking about what's coming in the future. I'm thinking about the fact that we got boos, but we ended with a fucking hug. Not just one, but 2. Hugging in the ring.
Yeah.
That to me just was like, okay, well, apparently all of the booing was just for nothing. That's wasted heat. So I don't know.
Unless you're building a longer heel turn. Then,
yeah, maybe, but I'll pop my ass off when it finally happens. But this was another stumbling, stepping block along the way. And just as a side note, I tried to make it clear in my little highlight reel there, but I was just really disgruntled with the complete impotence of the referee during all of this. The referee is a key player, and I felt that the referee was just being completely ignored. He might as well not even have fucking been there.
Yeah, I agree.
That's kind of the case for the ref anytime they need him to be.
Yeah, but I mean, knock him out. The ref goes down and then you do that kind of shit, not just, hey, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop it, like over and over again. It was just, all right, well, I like Earl Hebner too much to see him used in such a way, I guess. We're going to move it along here to Petting Zoo backstage again in Pamela Anderson's dressing room. Still, this is all just creepy. He's hanging out while she's changing behind a small screen and just handing her purse or something. I don't know. It was just really creepy. We're going to cut to Stephanie Wiand with Bob Sparkplug Holly and the 1, 2, 3 Kid. She immediately begins with the Cinderella storyline. The 1, 2, 3 Kid cuts his typical kind of, golly gee, mister, we're going to give it 110% promo. And then Bob Holly tries and fails to talk here before they kick it back to ringside. The King tries to draw a picture of himself on the screen using Pam Anderson. It falls flat as he draws everything but the crown that would have identified him as the person that he's drawing. I thought that was funnier than the actual segment.
I'm sure you're going to ask for our comments, but I have to say that I did not enjoy Jerry Lawler on this show at all. I thought all of his...
The entire show.
Yeah. I thought everything he said was just cheesy and just stupid.
I thought that part was very awkward, where he was trying to use the Madden pen to draw his face. It didn't work out. Yeah.
I disliked it so much that, as a matter of fact, I hadn't planned on asking either of you about it.
Good.
Yeah, but everything but the crown, the one thing that we needed to figure out what the fuck was going on. And he even flubs it a couple times. Has to erase and start over again. All right, well, anyway, this is going to take us into our next match. Bob Holly and the 1, 2, 3 Kid defeat Bam Bam Bigelow and Tatanka by pinfall in 15 minutes and 45 seconds to win the Tag Team Championship. Unfortunately, the Cinderella story comes out to Bob Holly's music. They're trying to get Bob Holly over, and it really isn't working here. After they're both tagged in, they're out, the match gets started. It's kind of just mediocre with Bob Holly, and the build-up going into this doesn't really seem like a whole lot of excitement from the superstars. But after they're both tagged in to get to work, it's easy to see that the real stars here are Bam Bam Bigelow and the 1, 2, 3 Kid. But, oh man, as soon as I'm done noting that the best ones here are Bam Bam Bigelow and the 1, 2, 3 Kid, which doesn't change, by the way, despite what I'm about to say. As soon as I'm done noting that, there's a really rough spot where Bam Bam puts the Kid into what I think was supposed to be a powerbomb that the Kid reverses into a head scissors takedown, but they make it into a pop-up where Bam Bam gives the Kid some great air, but it kind of screws up the choreography because when the Kid tries to transition it into the head scissors, the Kid comes dangerously close to going head first into the mat. I winced as I was watching it because it looked like the Kid came really, really close to breaking his goddamn neck. I'm not sure if that's just me misreading the situation, but it did not look good. Bam Bam is so impressive right after this. He lands a spinning heel kick, and the King is 100% correct when he states that Bam Bam is matching the Kid's agility here. I can't put over Bam Bam Bigelow and the 1, 2, 3 Kid enough for this match. They give a slow motion replay of that almost botched move that I mentioned, and it was truly impressive. It was a awesome move to witness, but goddamn, you can tell it was close. I'm surprised the Kid doesn't have a brush burn on his forehead from that. There's an amazing throw to the mat from Bam Bam on the Kid, followed by an amazing suplex from Bam Bam on the Kid. Fantastic, fantastic work between these two. The more Vince talks about Bob Holly being a dual sports superstar, and then eventually mentions Bob Holly hitting the wall, I'm over the whole gimmick now. Done with it. I was willing to give it a little bit of a comedic chance here for all of these months because it hadn't been too bad. And then that whole bullshit about the Snowball Derby was entertaining in its own right because of just the ridiculousness of it. But now I'm officially over it. I'm fucking tired of the dual sport superstar. During a move, somehow Bob Holly's elbow pad gets blown right off of him. Not sure exactly what happened there, but that was kind of weird to see.
Yeah, it was right after Bam Bam slams down on him. It's like it came off like a popped tire after he crashed into the wall.
Hit the wall, Holly. The work in this match isn't bad between Tatanka when Tatanka's taking part and when Bob Holly's taking part. But I note a lot of really obvious inconvenient spots from Bob Holly and the Kid. You can tell they don't have a lot of experience working together as a tag team. They really didn't work together. They weren't on the same page with each other as well as Tatanka and Bam Bam were. Every single time somebody at commentary says the phrase Cinderella story, I want to just fucking slap my TV. I could be wrong, but there seems like there's a lot of spot calling going on between Money Inc. and Bob Holly. They're taking plenty of time to explain things to him every time they're in the corner with him. There's a really great missile drop kick from the Kid off the top rope onto Bam Bam. Bam Bam gets the Kid up into a full military press and tosses him from the ring. Truly impressive stuff here. And I think the 1-2-3 Kid might have shit himself. There's a spot where he's laying prone in the middle of the ring and Bam Bam is up in the corner to do a moonsault, while Tatanka doesn't see Bam Bam, bounces off the ropes, causing both to go down. And we see the Kid laying there with his legs spread and some kind of brown mess smeared all over the insides of his thighs. It was standing out to me because of the Kid's tights being bright white. Joking aside, I think he might have rubbed some bronzer off of Tatanka onto himself or something, but his fucking lower nether parts were coated in this brown shit all over the Kid's tights. The Kid just barely gets the 3 count on Bam Bam as a result of that botch in the corner with Tatanka, as Vince calls them a Cinderella team again, and now they are the tag team champions. We get a nice close-up of Bob Holly's bald spot as they exit to backstage. But the $1 Million Man and Tatanka have left Bam Bam in the ring, busted open and bleeding, abandoned. As Bam Bam exits, going the long way around the ring, some of the fans are yelling at him, making fun of him, and he's yelling back, "That ain't funny!" And then he sees LT, Lawrence Taylor, laughing, and decides to start some shit. LT tries to shake his hand, but instead Bam Bam launches him back 2 rows with a shove that really got things moving around LT, and LT comes back hot, selling the angle perfectly. LT has a mook there with him yelling, "He's crazy, that guy!" While Bam Bam is walking out to the ringside area. And while Bam Bam is finishing his circuit around the ring to hit the entryway, somebody reaches over and comes within a hair of poking his eye out. The person's finger lands just barely into Bam Bam's temple. But to Bam Bam's credit, he doesn't acknowledge it at all. He keeps on marching like nothing happened. Bam Bam the entire time is yelling, "Nobody laughs at the beast from the east," as he goes back to the locker room. The match itself was kind of whatever for me. We've discussed at length before the tag team situation is just a shambles in general. But this match really did 2 big things for me. The first is not as big as the second, but the first is that it highlighted 2 singles competitors in the 1-2-3 Kid and Bam Bam Bigelow as being fantastic in-ring talent and workers. I went into this as a fan of both of these superstars, and I came out of it as an even bigger fan of both of these superstars. I pop my ass off for both whenever they're in the ring. But we already knew that I like these guys going into this, and the time in the ring between the 2 of them, just great to watch. The best parts of this match. Second, this match officially ignites the Bam Bam Bigelow Lawrence Taylor feud going to WrestleMania. And this I'll say to you two guys, say what you will about Chuck Norris or Pamela Anderson, this is the celebrity interaction that I remember most fondly from my childhood. And watching the end of this match and the subsequent little kerfuffle there with LT brought a great big smile to my face. I am genuinely excited to rewatch this angle with Bam Bam and LT. I'm excited that Bam Bam is finally going to get some time in the sun because he absolutely deserves it. And based on those two factors that I just detailed, I'm giving this match 3 stars. Ryan, what did you think about the end of the tag team tournament and this match?
I felt it was kind of dumb that it was a tag team tournament just because of everyone that's involved. No tag teams.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's not much to cover that you didn't. Bam Bam and 1-2-3 Kid were great. There's not even that much to really talk about with Bob Holly and Tatanka. And it's not that they were bad. They just weren't up to the caliber that Bam Bam and 1-2-3 were. It was almost like any time one of those two got in the ring, you would almost ignore it. But once Bam Bam and 1-2-3 were in there again, it was the match again. It really made me wish for this match to just be between those two, to have this, David versus Goliath match with just the speedster throwing everything he can at this huge guy who, in his own right, does some pretty high-flying moves for a 300-pound plus guy. He's phenomenal. I think everyone out there knows our feeling and love for Bam Bam, and he does not disappoint here at all. Joe, you said you didn't like anything Lawler said tonight. I did like one thing. When describing the 1-2-3 Kid, he said, you're in trouble when Sally Struthers sends you food. I thought that one was kind of funny. Yeah, and then, Tatanka and Bob Holly get back in the ring, and it kind of goes downhill again. And overall, it was a decent match. I really liked it because of Bam Bam and the Kid. If it wasn't for those two, I probably would have gave this a dud or even a 1 star, but I gave it 2 star because of Bam Bam and the Kid.
Yeah, I agree with mostly everything you guys said. I don't have a whole lot to add here. I, too, like you guys, was thinking the whole time, like, man, I'd like to see a singles match between the Kid and Bam Bam. I'm not going to bury Bob Holly, but I will say that this is probably the most interested I've been in Bob Holly since he debuted. I think it works putting him in a tag team with somebody like the 1-2-3 Kid, who is just way over with the fans. Much better than just him by himself. I didn't like the finish. I thought the moonsault thing was a little sloppy. Like how would Tatanka not see Bam Bam climbing the top?
Yeah, the finish was a little bit cheap.
Yeah. Bartlett, you mentioned the 1-2-3 Kid's tights and whether he pooped his pants. I wondered that too. I knew it was blood right away. I'm like, who the hell is bleeding? And then I rewound it, and Bam Bam was just, the blood was just pouring out of Bam Bam's mouth at that point.
Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't connect the two. I thought because it was, and I mean, it makes absolute sense whenever blood gets on clothes, it looks more brown than red. But yeah, I honestly thought it was like tanning lotion or something off of Tatanka or something,
Yeah. Not to take away from the match itself, I'm giving this 1 star. The reason why I'm giving it 1 star is because I think the whole tag team tournament thing was stupid. Just to kind of go with what Ryan said about how there's no real tag teams in it. And the ending of this match, it just took forever and it was sloppy. But I'll give Bam Bam and Lawrence Taylor 5 stars because I thought it was great. LT made that look very believable, and I really enjoyed it. And I liked Bam Bam, how the camera caught Bam Bam yelling, "Fuck!" at the end there.
One of my favorite parts was when they came back and Vince just completely deadpans that apology to Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
I am so sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, that kind of ruined it a little bit. Cause
I couldn't help but laugh over it.
I know. It was believable up until that point, Pritchard didn't mention anything about this, but I wonder if they worked it out where LT was like, dude, just let me have it, you know, because he shoved the shit out of him. And like, we're talking about an NFL linebacker.
Yeah.
He was collecting his jewelry and shit after.
He's crazy, that guy. Dave Meltzer gave this 3 3/4 stars, which I thought was a little high for Dave Meltzer, but seems like he enjoyed it.
He's a Crash Holly fan.
Don't have anything to really add on to that. I do think it's kind of funny, though, how once again, Joe, you and I, our roles are reversed here. This time with Bob Holly.
I'm not going to say I enjoy him right now, but it's definitely the most interested that I've been in Bob Holly since he debuted, because I honestly didn't give a shit about him at all. But now it's like, all right, this is kind of working. This is definitely the best position that he's been placed in, I think.
Do you think that things would have been better for him if they would have paired him up with the Goon to make the dual sport superstar tag team?
Yes, yeah.
They could have camera footage of supporting each other at their, respective events, things like that. That still would have been shitty. All right, we're going to move it to the next segment, highlights from Royal Rumble 1994. Petting Zoo highlights the beginning of the rift between Diesel and Shawn Michaels a year ago. And then we get a promo from Shawn Michaels calling this the year of the Heartbreak Kid. We get the disastrous finish of the Royal Rumble last year where both Lex Luger and Bret Hart went over the top rope at the same time. Petting Zoo shows us 30 different fucking angles before Jack Tunney, the most worthless name in television, comes out and declares both men the winners. Petting Zoo makes a point of mentioning that Lex Luger had a few chances at the championship since then, and for whatever reason, bad luck, karma, it just didn't work out. Lex is set to change that all tonight, though, and now we've got Luger backstage cutting a promo. Lex is a little more aggressive here, but the promo is pretty weak, basically what one would expect from Lex Luger. And here is where we go back to ringside, where Vince and the King are both looking dead serious, like somebody just fucking died, when they apologize to Lawrence Taylor and everybody that had to witness that. Just really... Even the King, you'd think that the King would have, kind of turned away or something, but the King was looking very somber as well. Surprised. This segment is going to take us into our final match of the night. And that is, of course, the 1995 Royal Rumble. I won't get too bogged down in things here. I'm just more or less going to list who came in and when, and who went out and when. First, Pam Anderson is escorted down to the ring in a beautiful gown. She's definitely braless, as Vince calls her frisky, and says she's ready to rumble. The Fink announces the Rumble, and the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, is the first to come down to the ring. This position traditionally is the worst anybody can draw. Vince makes it a point to state that the Heartbreak Kid is definitely not going to win and go on to challenge the champion at WrestleMania, while Pam Anderson rolls her eyes at Shawn Michaels' antics in the ring. The number 2 entrant is announced, and it's the British Bulldog to get things going. The Bulldog gets Michaels into a full military press and doesn't even try to throw him out of the ring. I felt that was extremely dumb. Next out, Eli Blue comes down to the ring, whoever the fuck that is, and apparently nobody else in the arena knows either except for Vince, because there's almost no reaction from anybody, and Vince has to name him for us. Next out is Duke the Dumpster Droese, and he immediately walks into Eli Blue's boot to start his time here in the Rumble. I'm happy that the clock is running fast here. It makes this a lot less tedious. The Gigolo, Jimmy Del Rey, is next, entering the action. Then Sione of the Head Shrinkers comes out. Gigolo Jimmy Del Rey is the first person to be eliminated from the Rumble. The Doctor of Desire, Tom Pritchard, is next up. And now Donk the Clown is coming out, and despite previous statements, he is not dinkless. Petting Zoo, that lying sack of shit. Next out is the master of the martial arts, Quang. And then out of nowhere, the model Rick Martel enters we haven't seen Rick Martel in quite a few months. I want to say the last time we saw Rick Martel was during that 20-man match to see who would get the vacated Intercontinental title after Shawn Michaels' bullshit, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's been a few months. Damn near a year, I think. Owen Hart comes out next, strutting and smiling, but is followed by the hitman Bret Hart, who attacks him in the entryway before Owen can even get close to the ring. There are now a bunch of officials in the way as Timothy Well of Well Done comes out, and just as he enters the ring, so does Owen Hart finally. Also, just as they are entering the ring, Duke the Dumpster is eliminated. And we didn't see it right at this moment, but apparently Owen Hart was also eliminated shortly after entering the ring. One after the other, Tom Pritchard and then the model Rick Martel are eliminated. Donk gets eliminated, and then through a series of events that the camera mostly misses, only Shawn Michaels and the British Bulldog are left in the ring as Bushwhacker Luke enters. Luke is quickly eliminated, and now Jacob Blue comes down to the ring, whoever the fuck that is, but thankfully, he's almost immediately eliminated. The story is really developing here around Shawn Michaels and the British Bulldog as King Kong Bundy comes out next to a lot of boos. Bundy is horrible. Next out is Mo from Men on a Mission, and in classic Mo squash fashion lasts about a second and a half as he is immediately discarded out of the ring by King Kong Bundy. The best work King Kong Bundy ever did. Next up, though, is Mabel, and he's calling out Bundy. If anybody can eliminate Bundy, it's Mabel. Next out is Bushwhacker Butch as Bundy is eliminated. Butch is eliminated, leaving Shawn Michaels, the British Bulldog, and Mabel in the ring. Oh boy, here comes Lex Luger, and he immediately eliminates Mabel. This man is a beast. It's Mantar in the ring next. Look at the size of his legs, they're huge. Aldo Montoya is out next, and the King says they're double-teaming the Mantar, which I found hilarious for some reason. Henry Godwinn comes down next, and Vince finally says that the Blue Brothers are newcomers here in the WWF, answering questions that I'm sure we all had. Billy Gunn comes out, followed right after by Bart Gunn. Next out is Mr. Bob Backlund, and the crowd boos pretty well for him. Bret Hart appears again, however, beating up Backlund before he can get in the ring, and again there are officials out to remove him. Next is Stephen Dunn of Well Done. Bob Backlund is eliminated, and Bret Hart attacks Backlund again as Backlund is walking back to the locker room. And here comes Dickie Murdoch, whoever the fuck that is. Adam Baum comes out now at number 28, more psyched up than he ought to be. Fatu of the Head Shrinkers is number 29, and both of you, please, let's all just have a final sad moo as Mantar is eliminated. Moo. And as the shit icing on this turd cake, Crush comes out as number 30, as the Smoking Guns are both eliminated, and then Stephen Dunn. Now is when the craziness of entrance ends, and we just go through the work of eliminating the people that are left. We get a nice, clear shot of Luger spot calling to Shawn Michaels in the corner. Crystal fucking clear. There's a horrible little spot with Dick Murdoch, whoever the fuck that is, trying to headbutt Fatu on all fours like a little billy goat. Adam Baum is eliminated. Then Aldo Montoya is eliminated. Fatu is eliminated. Dick Murdoch sends himself over the top rope after giving Henry Godwinn a helicopter spin. Henry Godwinn gets eliminated, leaving us with 4 entrants. Shawn Michaels, the British Bulldog, fucking Crush, and Lex Luger. 2 greats and 2 less than greats. Lex Luger is eliminated, with Vince saying that that is a tremendous disappointment for Lex Luger and fans all over the world. Yeah, Vince, I'm sure. Crush is finally eliminated, and we are left with the first 2 entrants of the Rumble, the cream of the crop. The music plays for the Bulldog as if he has eliminated Shawn Michaels, because for all intents and purposes, it kind of looks like he has. by sending him over the top rope, but he hasn't. And as the Bulldog gets up to celebrate, Shawn Michaels tosses him over the top rope, and after being entrant number 1 and lasting a total of 38 minutes and 41 seconds, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels is the winner of the 1995 Royal Rumble. They show a replay of Shawn Michaels not getting eliminated, and it is excruciating. It honestly looked like he might not be able to hold on, but he finally does and is able to get back into the ring. I don't know if he was honestly weakened by the 38-minute match or if he was just really selling the shit out of it. Either way, I bought it hook, line, and sinker. I loved it. There's an ending sequence with Pam Anderson posing with Shawn Michaels before she very hurriedly gets the hell out of there. So, the storytelling for this was pretty good, or at least as good as it can get with all of the shit talent that was part of this Rumble. I really liked the Bulldog Michaels angle and thought it was the best possible spin they could put on all of this. At the same time, there was really nothing to write home about here, and in the long run, as much as I liked entrants 1 and 2 lasting until the end, I feel that it really didn't make up for the rest of the kind of lame action that we had to sit through for over a half an hour. I am going to give this match 1 star. Joe, please give us your thoughts on the Rumble.
Well, I think I'd like to rumble with Pam in her Adidas evening gown.
Yeah. I didn't even know they made tight white and black dresses like that.
I guess they do. I guess they did. Yeah.
You know, I was always more of a Heidi man myself.
No bra, glass cutting nipples.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to remember this is an extremely PG era still. We've had so many bombshell women roll through here since then, but I mean, this is kind of groundbreaking and edgy here during this time, I think, with her being there and looking like that. So I enjoyed that.
High beams on.
Yes. And we definitely got a nice early preview of Lawler's extreme perverted behavior during this entrance, too. Shawn Michaels, you dog. TK on his wrist, or on his glove. Do you guys know what that stands for?
Oh, shit.
We talked about her being a ring girl turned into a senator.
Themis Clermappides or
Themis Claritas was his girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
At this
really?
time, yeah.
Huh.
Man, lucky man.
Good for him, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have much to say about the actual Rumble itself. Basically, I will say this. I will sum it up with this, that it was a Shawn Michaels versus British Bulldog match with 28 run-ins.
Yeah.
Who the hell cares about anybody else? I am going against your feelings on your ratings here, Jason. I'm giving this 5 stars because it's the most memorable ending to a Royal Rumble, in my opinion. This was Shawn Michaels' idea, according to Bruce Pritchard, to do this finish. And for Mo to get squashed and jobbed out like that, five stars immediately for me. One other note here is I'm not sure that King Kong Bundy can physically go over the top rope. It had to be the slowest removal. It had to be the slowest Royal Rumble removal of a wrestler
use a jack to get
of
him out.
all time. God, that was bad. And that's all I have to say.
He is a monster.
I'm going to go on the record and say, for the most part, I hate Royal Rumbles. I just do. I've never enjoyed them. To me, I always dread them, that it's just going to be, 35, 45 minutes of boredom. And, to what you said, Joe, this is probably one of the best because of the ending. It's great storytelling that you finish with the same 2 people that started it are the people that finish it. And, I think that's the best type of story you can get out of a Royal Rumble match. I also had to note the British Bulldog when he's making his way down to the ring. as number 2. You know, he's trying to play up that he's pissed off that he's number 2. But to me, it just looks like he woke up from a coma and is just coming out from backstage. He was just, just looking around. Where am I? But
is this Survivor Series?
Yeah. Yeah. And then, when these two guys start, when it's just them, it looks really good. But then soon as I see that countdown come down in the corner, I get reminded, oh yeah, it's a Royal Rumble match. There's going to be some jobbers coming in that's going to muck everything up. Because once you get 4, 5, 6 people in the ring, you can't pay attention to anyone. It's just madness going on, and there's no one to pay attention to. And that's the way Royal Rumble matches go all the time. I did get a huge laugh out of both of you did when Mo came in to his immediate ejection. I loved that. I also liked when Henry Godwinn came in. Lawler starts making fun of comparing Bill Clinton to Henry Godwinn. Yeah. And Vince has to say, okay, I'll let you have that one. And I'm thinking, I guess it's okay when Vince breaks kayfabe as long as it's a dig at the Clintons, right? But we get the answer to who the fuck Dick Murdoch is. He's an old, out of shape guy with a giant beer gut. And apparently his finisher is like Curly from the Three Stooges. He gets down on all fours and headbutts them. Like, I was just waiting for him to go like, sweetly, nugga, nugga, nugga. I mean, like, that was the only thing missing. Great. Crush is back. How fantastic. When I saw him, I almost shut it off. Oh no. The return of Crush. I guess it's time to stop. But the ending was great. The way Shawn Michaels was able to pull off that, is his foot going to hit, isn't it? He actually pulled it off, unlike last year where they couldn't show any good angle of the double knockout because it was so shitty. No one actually pulled it off. Yeah. So, kudos to Shawn Michaels for that, but I'm giving it 1 star as well because I think all other Royal Rumbles are a dud by default, and this ending inched it up to a 1 star.
Dick Murdoch was 49, by the way. It looked like he was at least 75.
Yes. Holy shit. He was only 49.
Yeah.
God damn.
Dave Meltzer gave this 3.5 stars.
Well, I don't really have anything to add on to that other than, great. Crush. Fantastic. Mo was awesome. Love that. I can't see myself giving it 5 stars just for that, though, or the ending. And Ryan, I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that about Royal Rumbles in general. I honestly never knew that about you. I never knew that you dislike them.
Like I kind of said in there, once you get a few people in the ring, there's just nothing to focus on.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there. Personally, and I completely agree with that aspect of it, but personally, I always got a kick out of seeing who had drawn what spot and the multiple entrances, and I enjoy them more than you do. I think I'm not an asshole for a Rumble or anything, but I do enjoy them a little more than you do. All right, that's going to round out this Royal Rumble, and I have to say, just as a final parting comment, I think it's been interesting listening to you guys talk about these matches and then give our ratings on this, because it seems like, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, we all landed on the same things, generally speaking, but the way that we rated those things was drastically different. Did you guys notice that too?
Yeah. Different things seem to pull us in different directions.
Just a neat little tidbit. And we all apparently have the same taste, but how much we let that taste affect our ratings is where we differ, I guess. Very, very interesting. Joseph, do you have some additional wrestling news to cap off the 1995 Royal Rumble for us?
Yeah, from the Observer, just to give a review here of the show. The overall readers' ratings. So there was a 67.9% thumbs up. So the readers really loved this show. 14.8% thumbs down, 17% in the middle. The best match was voted to be Bret Hart versus Diesel, and it was a landslide victory in the voting. The worst match was the IRS versus the Undertaker, which is no surprise.
Yeah.
The Royal Rumble match itself was not well received, and I have to think it was mainly due to the lack of star power in the Rumble.
Yeah, really.
Plus, to me, the winner was just a little too predictable, I think. Maybe that's why people didn't really like it. It was said that there were 10,000 fans in attendance, which probably would sell out the Sun Dome, but I don't know about you guys, but I saw a lot of empty seats there, and it just seemed like the crowd was not very lively during this whole show.
Yeah, for a pay-per-view event, they were pretty flat.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were really into the first match, and then they kind of just like faded away there. A couple things just to show what a dumbass Dave Meltzer is sometimes. So he was criticizing Pam Anderson and said that the WWF should have clued her in on storylines more because she visibly appeared to have no clue what was going on and was laughing at Shawn Michaels doing his act. I think that was part of it. He's like gyrating and dry humping her. So she's like, haha, get off of me, weird guy, and leaves. So
not everyone could be William Shatner.
Yes. And then he mentioned that LT should have done anything but laugh during his angle with Bam Bam. But again, that was part of the fucking story.
Moron.
People were laughing. Bam Bam was saying, don't laugh.
Yeah.
So yes, he was laughing and then it got serious. So that made you think that it was real. So I don't know what he's thinking there. He's just looking for his 5-star Tokyo Dome matches, I guess. I will give him credit on this. He noted that this year the Royal Rumble entrants were cut down from 2 minutes to 1 minute.
Oh,
and whoever made that
you.
decision deserves a gold star. And I
almost want to go back and give that 2 stars instead of 1 just because of learning that little tidbit.
Yeah. 2 minutes from, I think it was 88 was the first Rumble. So now in 95, they've moved it to 1 minute, and what a great decision. And that is all I have.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I was very, very happy that they had shortened the time on that. But still, even with the shortened time for the Royal Rumble, we still fit in, 5 matches?
Yeah.
For just shy of 3 hours. And just imagine how much fucking longer it would have been at 2 minutes per entrant.
True.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, this would have been just not watchable at all with some Jacob and Eli Blue. What the fuck? Dick Murdoch.
Who?
Donk.
Who was not Dinkless. Although we don't know where Dink went after Donk came down, but he definitely fucking came down with a petting zoo.
Overall, I thought the show was pretty well produced. I enjoyed watching it. And it really did set the stage for WrestleMania. Like, they're really setting up storylines that are going to be coming here in a few months.
Yeah, I'll give it that. Absolutely. Whatever else I have to say about the rest of the Rumble here as a pay-per-view, I mean, not the match, it absolutely helped set up angles. It did a fantastic job of that. So, and you were right before whenever you said that the production of this was pretty damn good too. I didn't notice any gaffes or snafus or any bullshit with the production, so that was good too. All right, well, that's it, folks. We are done with this one. We are done with the 95 Royal Rumble. I want to thank you all again for joining us, and if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review. Let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be taking a look at the Raw that aired on January 23rd, 1995. With matches featuring the Black Phantom, the Smoking Guns, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.